Well, hello again, and welcome back to another edition of the Real Estate Investing Foundation podcast. Super excited for today's show. We have Chris Prefontaine on the show. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
I'm great. And you pronounce that actually perfectly.
That's it. That's because I'm on the East Coast, so I'm
That's
sure,
right?
right? Because we're both within range. So
Right.
I figured on that point, and you remind because you have that name that goes with the runner who is correct. So that always comes up for me. I'm a big runner myself. So
That's awesome.
You want a little bit more about Chris? Chris is a best-selling author of the 2017 Real Estate on Your Terms, and this year the new rule of real estate investing. A real estate investor with over 27 years of experience in the field. He's the founder of Smart Real Estate Coach and the host of Smart Real Estate Coach podcast, lives in Newport, Rhode Island with his wife, Kim, and their family, and operates the family business with his son, Nick, his daughter, Kayla, and his son-in-law, Zach, and an amazing team. So, Chris, thanks so much for coming on the show. What did I miss here?
You didn't miss anything. And I think it's actually cool when you said East Coast, your audience will actually understand me. That might be cool for a change.
That's right. Good. Well, hey, my first question is, because I work in a family business too.
Yeah.
How do you put it together for a family business? And because I get this question all the time. I work with my wife, I work with my family. They're always, how do you work with family?
Yeah. Here's the biggest thing, I think, Jason, or one of the biggest things. We have a setup. First of all, we have a mission and a purpose, right? That we all designed together. It wasn't me going, here's what we're doing. It wasn't dictated. Then there's 5 values that are attached to that. And so think about this. Every time there's a decision that comes to the table at an offsite meeting or a weekly meeting or a monthly meeting, we check it against the values. So it's not like it's debatable. We want debate, but it's as long as it fits within those values, everybody's cool with it. So there's not much leeway around those, and that's a pretty neat thing.
Could you share, if possible, some of the values that you guys put in line?
Sure. Create all transactions with the highest integrity, because we do transactions and we do them with our students. Clear, blunt, and to the point. And that doesn't mean rude. That means open communication.
Which being where you are up in the New England area, we got to be careful. Yeah, so There you go. Okay.
Let's see. Match effort for effort is another one. So in other words, when we're coaching with people, we're not trying to push a wet noodle. If they want to run, we're going to run fast. If they want to run slow, we're going to run slow. That's all. It's fine. Constantly innovate and improve is another one. We are just constantly on the go with improving things for ourselves and for our field, the associates in the field. I call them associates. Let me clarify. These are people that we do deals with, like we rev share with them. So it's important that they're in our mix, that we treat them like family. So those are 4 out of the 5. I missed one somehow in that.
No, that's great. That gives me a great reference point right there. Integrity, to the point, match effort for effort, innovate and improve. And you do this across, of course, your real estate investing, for your coaching platform. What is, for you, is how do you set up the team structure within the family?
Yeah. It's pretty neat what happened with us. So it wasn't like we said, okay, here's an org chart and here's where everybody's going to go. In 2014, for example, my son Nick joined me and started helping with buyers. And then end of 15, Kayla and Zach came on board and kind of fell into their roles organically. So it's pretty neat. And it continues to be that way. Like Nick loves working with the buyers and working with the associates with the buyers, and Zach loves the acquisition side and the coaching side. So it just all fell into place organically. I wish I would tell you it was a lot harder.
Yeah, no, it's great.
It worked well.
Good. And I'll ask one more question, so we're not so far into the topic, but how do you separate business time and family time?
Yeah, it's a biggie. So it's funny, is we don't now. We live like 10 minutes apart, which is still close, but we used to live on the one street, all 3 houses.
Oh, wow.
So we'd leave the office. We could walk to the office back then too. So we'd leave the office and get home and we'd yell across, how was your day? Like we never saw each other. That's one thing. The second thing is pretty much unspoken rule now, but it was a spoken rule before, was, you're at dinner, we travel a lot together. And if it's positive, bring it up. But if it's negative, you don't drag it home.
I like that.
So we can celebrate, but we can't poo-poo on things, not from home.
That's great. I'm writing that down, because that's actually a huge thing, right? Leave negativity outside, because it doesn't help anything going forward. So growing,
and it pollutes everyone else in the room. It's just not worth it.
So there's a lot of investors here that are looking to get started. You've grown a great business, 27 years into it. If you are talking to someone who maybe it's a coaching client or other, and they're saying, how do I get started? What's that step I need to go from where I am, unhappy in my job, or just looking for a new way to active in real estate? What would you say?
Okay, because there's so much free information, as you know, out
Hmm.
there now. I'm a big believer in free. I told you before the show I want to give a book away, and here's what I tell the new person. I'm not so naive to think it's our niche or us are the best choice for anyone, right? I'm not, of course not. But here's the 3 steps you should do. You should just look online. It's free. We have a YouTube channel. A lot of people do. Delve in there for 2 reasons. One, what niche do you want? And 2, and I'm still in the first step now. And 2 is within that niche, who can you relate to? Can you relate to us? We move fast. We're pretty blunt. We look to do deals. Or do you want a softer approach? So that's number 1. Find a niche. And then 2, find someone in your niche that you can relate to. And 3, and by the way, that are still active. Super important.
Hmm.
I should have said that. There's a ton of people, and I don't need to use names because people know who they are, that just teach and sell, but they haven't done a deal in 20 years. And some, I was on a podcast that there was an apartment podcast, I think, and the guy said to me, he was a host, and he said, yeah, a buddy of mine does this, but he's never done a deal, like not a single deal, which is odd to me that people would follow that.
Hmm.
And third is, once you find that person that you can relate to in that niche, put the blinders on for 36 months. Like, no shiny object syndrome. No, I'll try this. That's a joke. Like, commit for 36 months and you'll have a phenomenal experience. And I'm talking about, like, if you're in the restaurant business, doesn't matter. Real estate,
Yeah.
if you do those 3 steps, you got it.
It's so true. And I'll give this just for the listener base. When we figured out that we wanted to go into multifamily, and we were doing, from the single family to small multi, all the things we were trying, we said, we're going into large multifamily. I said, okay, great. Looked at that niche, dove all in that niche, said, who else is doing this successfully that I'd like to be around? Found that person. And then we went all in. And it completely paid off. So exactly, you just laid out the steps, and that's exactly what we did. And it's just
Super
one of those
important.
things. And I think the access to so much free information can almost be a disservice, because especially we started a meetup that was just designed around multifamily, because you would go to meetups or these RIAs, and every month it's a different strategy or niche, and you see people every month they're trying something else, and it's like, how are you ever going to get anywhere? You can't.
Major distraction.
Yeah, it is. It's beyond point. And for you, talk about your niche. What has been your home base, and why do you stay there?
Yeah. Especially the market changing, or everybody think it's changing. We do everything on terms. Coming out of the 08 crash and that last major recession, I just pivoted and re-engineered the whole business. And so for us, that means what? It means we don't use banks. We don't solicit investors and bring private money in. We don't sign personally on anything. We buy everything lease purchase or owner. And I'll clarify, owner financing typically for us means the property's free and clear. There's no mortgage. And we're usually structuring very long-term terms, or shorter, like in the 4 or 5 year range, but principal-only payments. That's a key, because that'll build a recession-proof property right there. If you can put that term out and have principal-only payments, you hammer down principal.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third way, it's not as much, it depends on the seller situation, would be subject to the existing loans. But again, we're controlling, Jason, 50, 60 properties at one time, because some come, some go. But we're not on one single solitary property by a loan or a personal signature. That makes me sleep better at night than pre-08.
Yeah, understood.
Bank loan and borrowed and. Yeah.
So let's talk to the owner finance section, because I know some of the response there, everybody always tries to find a reason why it doesn't work, right? So if an owner has no mortgage and you think they could just go sell, why would they choose to go with you?
Yeah, everyone asks that. So let me give you some numbers. Like, I'm sitting in my building right now in Middletown, Rhode Island. We bought this a little over a year ago, almost a year ago to date. And it was free and clear, and we did owner financing on it. On an island, we're on an island here that people say, well, you can't do that. Nobody's going to want to do that. Why would they do it? 2 reasons. One is they get their price. Some people are just caught up ego-wise and otherwise and estate planning-wise that they want their price, period, end of story. I don't care about price. If I get my term, think about it. If I get principal only payments, I can add whatever to the price. It's going to get eaten up in 6 months or whatever you add.
Yeah.
So they get their price, or they get a premium. Secondly, this gentleman here who did it with us got near his price. I think we both won on the deal, which is good, but he did it for estate planning reasons. He doesn't need the money. He has. In fact, I went to look at a possible restructuring, and he said, whoa. I told you I don't want to get paid off. Like, he doesn't want to get paid out.
Yeah.
So you'd be surprised think about it, if they have free and clear, right? They don't need the money. They would have already pulled it out, presumably, most people. So you're usually dealing with someone that's quite well set up and understands the value of money and understands that they're going to get a premium. They'll go for that. And so that's why, for sure.
Could you give us an example, like with maybe some numbers to it? Like, I don't know if this building would be great if you're okay to talk about it, or just so people can relate. So are you doing this on a 5-year payoff in that point, or how do you break it down so you can make sure it works for you on the back end as well?
Okay, so I'll answer that back piece, and I'll give you a classic single family deal instead of the building.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so to make sure it works for us well, what do? We make sure that we can then go out to market because we fill all our properties with either tenant buyers needing time to rent to own, or we fill it with owner financing. But either way, we've got to make sure that the payment we're making to the owner will be small enough to create enough spread to go to the market with, be it owner financing or rent to own. So I'll give you a great example. In Auburn, Massachusetts, because you're from New England, we did a property. It was on the market for like $219 with a realtor. The family was liquidating. The dad died, and this was the last house from one of the brothers. They didn't want to do anything in the estate with us because they wanted to clean out the estate. But he called me at the end of that and said, look, Dad's properties are all gone, but I got this one house left. Will you do that owner financing thing? I'm leaving to South Carolina. It was literally like 4 days he was leaving.
Mm-hmm.
We went out, signed a purchase and sales on the spot before he left. And what we did was we said, okay, what would you get? And this is a great script for people. What would you get if you had sold that full price with the realtor, paid the realtor? What do you think you were going to net? He said like 183.9 was the exact number. I said, okay, that's what we'll give you. As if you sold it, you didn't sell it, but as if you did, I will give you that owner financing. And I'll do that by paying you $923 a month. Now, that's principal pay down, and I structured a 48-month term. They left. Every year, let me tell you how we exited. We exited with a $1,500 a month tenant buyer and $15,000 down. So probably interesting to say at this point for your listeners that we create 3 paydays every deal. So this one deal created a $15,000 upfront payday, a $500 or $600 monthly spread payday, and then on the back end you're collecting all that principal pay down in the markup and price because we sold it for like $235 or something. Now,
got it.
Here's what's interesting. Every Christmas after year 2, we called them and said, if we paid you $6,000 down now towards the principal, will you extend this 12 more months? They did that 2 years in a row. Now this year, we said we could do that. Or how about if we now put interest on it of 4.5% and you give us a 15-year additional term?
Got it.
Yes, my accountant agrees. It was like instant email back. So we just made a 4-year deal, 2 1-year extensions and 1 15-year extension for a 21-year deal.
Wow.
That thing will be paid off almost by the time I'm done, and I didn't pay 1 penny towards it because the tenant buyers will have done that. See, that doesn't work if you have a tenant buyer that wants to cash out quickly. Correct. These guys are in no hurry for a lot of reasons. They got like a couple families living there, and so it works great for them, no pressure, and it works great for us. Got it.
So you set up in the beginning with the 48 months, but some kind of balloon payment to that point, and then when you get closer within range, then you'll go in there and say, "Hey, how about this option?" And just keep them the options right there. If they want the balloon, okay, you figure it out from there.
Yeah, or we, like you said, figure it out. So if you're a tenant buyer in there and we know you're on it, you want to cash out.
Yeah,
I won't call and try to get an extensions because you're going to cash it out, and then I'm going to give them the balloon.
Ah, that's great. That's a great topic.
Super recession proof. And I'm not going to say totally, right? Nothing is, but I'm always thinking, because I went through 2008, how can we make this recession proof? How can we build our recession proof muscles?
How do you focus on finding these leads? And I'm sure that's the tricky question. That have no balance, really. Yeah. So they have no mortgage.
You can buy, so we get most of our leads from expired listings for sale by owner, for rent by owner, like a lot of people do. But if you want to niche down, because I love that niche, you can buy lists of properties that are free and clear. And I'll tell you a number, about a third in the United States are. That's staggering.
That's ridiculous, right?
I talked to a mortgage broker, Jason, in Naples, Florida it was, and I said that stat to her, and she said, no. Around here, it's like 56 or 58%. She knew the numbers.
Yeah,
so go fish in that pond. Like, just go talk to them. They're great people to talk to.
And did you do that for your building you're in? Just search free and clear?
Yeah, I actually put a sign out for sale by owner, big sign that I've driven by forever. And a realtor called me and said, that guy will do owner financing. And I just killed myself because I could have called him directly. But I assumed, I've been at this too long now, I guess. I assumed when I went by, well, we're on island. That's not going to happen. That's what everyone thinks around here. So all I had to do is call and I would have found that out. But she got a small commission. It's okay.
It's that trick that if you think everybody sees it, that everybody's going to act on it, and very rarely do they do.
I agree.
And then you get after it, and I've been down that rabbit hole myself, and it kicks me later because I'll see it sitting there for a while, and it's like, oh, something has to happen, or they're being too unrealistic, and you finally talk to them and say, well, people they couldn't get up front, but time solves everything. If people sit there on a property for a year, 2 years, especially commercial, their story changes so much.
That's a key thing. I try to tell our students that, like, No is not no. No is definitely not no. No is no, not now. Stick in a pile. I call it let sit. I let things sit for like 6 months to pick it up. There's leads in there every time.
Yeah. Yeah, there sure is. And you do this and you teach. Is this where you try to model your coaching for your students to try and stick with this niche, or
Yeah.
and why do the coaching with so much else going on?
Everyone asks that. So here's the deal. We do in-house here, like we at some months in my early days, we did like 10 a month, but now we do like 1 to 4 a month. We pick the cream of the crop. And then we started getting asked like in 2014, literally by one guy who's at the Navy College here locally, who wanted me to coach him. And then that grew into a very large coaching and mentoring business. And it's pretty cool because you have to stay super sharp and on the cusp when you're coaching. That's number one. And number two, until you coach, and even speak, you don't know how satisfying is the lack of a better word. And I know that sounds watered down, but it's a different level mentally.
Yeah.
I love seeing someone go from A to Z. You said at the beginning of the show, in fact, you said something really good. You said a lot of people looking to move from corporate. We have a ton of people that are looking to move from corporate, and they've joined us. And we have some people that have already made that transition, which is really cool, from like a 2-year goal, and they did it, and they're full time with us. One of them even became a coach. He was so good. So that's cool. He never was in the business 2 years, 2.5 now.
Yeah.
He's over $1 million in earnings. That's a cool story. That I like that stuff, and it's never boring. Never boring.
I absolutely agree. And so for the clients we do this with multifamily, the point that you hit on, like keeping you sharp, it's for large multifamily. It's not like every day you're going to find deals, right? And so you have to. It's really just about being patient. But if you can do this, it keeps you on the ball, because I find people get on that roller coaster where they try it and then are saying, oh, I didn't find anything. Well, how much effort did you put in? Well, I did 2 days, and then okay, well 2 days. It's like, all right, like
Crazy.
2 days, well, hey, you got to put in the work for a while, but with the days of social media and so many other things where it's instant gratitude, the effect is that we think everything's like that, right?
Yeah.
And very rarely does anything come to us in that approach so how do you talk through that with the people around you to say, if you put in the work, the effort will show? I can't tell you when, but if you do the work, it comes, but you have to be patient. How would you talk to that?
Okay, so spot on. We actually timeline at farm. We call it the associate journey, but we tell them very strictly, right to our core value of being open communication. We tell them we don't want them coming in if this is something they need to do a deal tomorrow, like they need water. Like you need to set your expectations for 6 to 12 months. That's what we tell them. Now, do some people pop a deal in 30 days, 90 days? Sure. But if I get on a channel like this, or I get on a stage and I say, yeah, 30 days because one guy did it. No, it's mismanaged expectations. And too many people watch those late night shows. And they think they're going to pop a deal that quick. So I say to people, if you're going to dip your toe and try it, you're not ready to do any niche yet. You need to understand the niche and then go after it with the vengeance, and you'll have a great experience. So I'm managing expectations for sure.
Yeah. And I love that. Right. And it's just, it's unfortunate because everything is 30 days to $1 million, 30 days to your first multifamily property. Everything's, that 30-day or 10-day or 7-day steps. But honestly, if your satisfaction is built just on that 30 days or 7 days, well, this is a longevity play, right? And this is what the business you want to be in. So you need to find a sustainable way. It's like a diet, like, it's crash diet for the 10 days that you're never going to be able to keep. I lost 30 pounds in a month, but that effect that's
Next
great.
month it's back on.
Then it's back on because there's nothing built in there for the foundation. So I love that. I love the story. And you talk so much about 2008, and then presumably, your children may have not been in there, and a lot of people listening didn't go through what was part of that. Give us some lessons that for people looking forward, they should look out for, because you've said, I'm going to set up a recession proof in the best way approach to business. Give some thoughts on how people should prepare going forward, whether or not there is a recession or not, for how they're looking at their business.
Yeah, you should anyway, right? You should. I don't want to act like you have to play defense all the time, but you should do that. And by the way, my son was in the office. He was a realtor back then, and so he kind of witnessed it from afar and saw all that we did and had to work through. So the 2 lessons, we kind of touched upon one already. One is going forward, just, I don't care how good your credit is. Mine was pristine then. Do not use it for investment properties. Do not tap into it for investment properties, because you're going to then sign personally. And if there's any headache, or if there's a lawsuit, or there's anything, the bank's looking for you. They could care less what's going on in the market. Granted, the whole national market came down. They don't care. They're coming to you if they have your signature. So don't do that. Secondly, there's only been 2 times in my career that I can look back, 08 being one of them, where I said, wow, that sucked. Well, what was going on during those 2 times? I had no mentors. The only times in my entire career, I had no mentor or group, or call it a sounding board. It could be, a trusted advisor, but I didn't have one during those 2 times. That's crazy. So don't ever get too cocky or egotistical where you say, I don't need help. You need someone somewhere all the time, whether it's personal, physical, spiritual, like I don't care. Find a coach and make sure they're part of what you're doing, or a trusted person or persons.
And that's what you said there with the sounding board. It's just absolute, right? So mentors can get you started, but they can also, most of the time loss is that we get to a point where something occurs that we just don't know how to handle it, and Google searching it doesn't provide the absolute result for you, right?
No,
When
too deep.
Too deep, right? But you have that mentor, and you just say, hey, listen, this just happened. Here's where I am, and they say, oh yeah, no worries, just do this, and you're back on track. Where you could have spiraled out of control for 2-3 weeks and been lost, and it set you completely on the sideline. And I think people get scared to pay sometimes for mentorship too. But it's like, if we both could get to the same result, right? If our result is wherever it is in the horizon, we both want to get there. But I'm going to pay X to get there in 6 months, or I'm not going to pay. I'm going to get there in 3 years.
Yeah.
What would you prefer?
You just described how we do it. You're exactly right. Like, your deals are big deals. Our deals are big relative to single families, right? So you take our average 3 paydays. I said we do 3 paydays. I didn't say what they were. They average 75 grand for me. We have students go as high as 200, and we have students as low as 45. But still, let's take 45. Let's take the lowest out of the entire North America that I have for students. So 45 grand. How many of those you really have to do this year on a single family house? They're not difficult. I'm not going to tell you it's easy. It's simple, but not easy. But how many of those you need to do to justify having a coach or mentor? I mean, I'm talking about any niche, right?
Yep.
That's crazy. So and the other thing I should have said, point 3 of that is, I have always had some form of an accountability partner. I've now had the same one for we're going on 3 years. And here's how simple this is, but effective. Every Monday morning, 8:00, no socializing, no nothing. Hey, Steve. Hey, Chris. What are your wins? What are your losses? What are your ahas from the week? And what are your fixes? And then what's your one big thing you had to accomplish next week? Now, I might be going through the losses, and he might be going, whoa, go back. Why did you do that? So we can hold each other accountable. And it's 15 minutes a week, and I'll tell you, it's the most valuable 15 minutes I spend. And then from that, all kinds of relationships happen. But
yeah, I love it. And I actually do that with Todd at 8 a.m. on Tuesdays.
Awesome.
But it's that same thing, because he's in a different time zone. But we get in there and we have the list that we talked about that we were going to do the week prior. We said why we won, why we lost, and what we're doing for the next week. So speaking my language, man. I love it. It's awesome. Well, you've talked about your book. Would love to know more about that, how people can get access to it, and really appreciate your time today.
Sure. I appreciate you having me on, and I'll give you a link, and I want to be real clear. This is a link to get the hardcover best-selling book. Then go on Amazon and whatever it is, 20-something bucks. I want to give it to them for free. And this is the caveat is, I don't want to put it in a credit card for shipping. I can't stand when you go online, it says get my book for free. And then you got to put in $8 credit card for shipping. Free. We'll send it. It costs us about $6 to ship, not counting labor. It just go to free, SRECbook.com. Free, SRECbook.com. All they got to do is put in that they saw it on your show, and they'll get a free book.
Awesome. That's super great. Chris, thank you so much for coming on. People want to connect more about you, learn more about your niche, learn more about your platform. What's the best way to find you?
Just the website, smartrealestatecoach.com. We do have a show ourselves too, smartrealestatecoachpodcast.com. Awesome. Either one of those will get to us.
Awesome. Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show. Super appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Again, go on to iTunes, give us a rating review. Doesn't have to be a 5-star review. Just want to hear from you, want to hear what we can do better, hear what else we can bring you. Thank you so much for Chris Prefontaine. Have a great day.
You too.